So, okay, let me ask you a deeper life question. Since you are posing that question, you are using AI, you are feeling that AI is probably better than you. Okay. Now, the question is going to be, are you using AI or is AI using you right now?
Yeah, right. No, I would argue that AI is a colleague, a collaborator.
You are the boss.
Yeah.
You are the boss right now. You are using AI. You are
No,
leveraging.
I just like it's just like another employee on a team. You're accessing their strength. What makes us so special? And why isn't AI just simply going to replace us all? That's why I'm sitting down with educators, researchers, and practitioners to have an open and honest discussion about the human impact of AI. I'm Doug Atkinson, and join me for the human conversation. Sam Gupta, the founder and CEO of ElevateIQ, and also a podcast host at WBS Rocks. Welcome to the human conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, Doc. Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
Well, we are very happy to have you. You've been really a part of our journey at Insight Jam, pretty much from the get-go when we launched InsightJam.com a couple of years ago. You're one of our first solutions review experts, certainly an expert in enterprise resource planning and technology in general. And so, my first question with regard to, where I want to go with this is first things first, set the table for where the landscape is right now with regard to that kind of enterprise level technology.
Yeah, so very interesting times. We both know this, Doug. There are a lot of changes happening in the market. Obviously, AI is a big theme. With AI comes the speed, but with speed, we also have several risks that we need to keep in mind, right? So right now, the way enterprise software landscape is structured, I don't know whether you have followed the stock market last couple of weeks. Everything
Yes.
is getting hammered. Literally everything. Okay. That touches anything related to software, which was not the case for last, I don't know, 20 years, 25 years, I guess. It's been pretty hot.
And why do you think that is?
Right now, some people believe, depending upon which spectrum and where you sit in terms of the maturity, that AI and vibe coding, what we are sensing in the market, is going to eat pretty much everything, every single enterprise software category. The
Claude
kind
code,
of
in
sorry, what?
particular, the Claude code and everything that's happening with regard to
Yeah,
Claude bots. And
yeah. So what people are sensing is, if coding is going to be so easy, why are we paying 10% of my revenue in software licensing? That's probably what companies are paying, maybe 5%. I don't know, sometimes depending upon how much software they use. But there was a saying, every investor said, software was eating the world. Now, AI is eating the software. That's what is happening right now. Okay, so it's a very interesting time. Now, if you ask about how much is that hype and what's going to happen, obviously it's very early stage right now. We don't know. But again, whatever is happening is very exciting, but also frightening.
yeah, I don't think there's any question that and I'm not using Claude code, but I see I have a lot of folks that I follow that are using it, and the word over the last few weeks, and I know there's been a new release, and also that OpenAI is releasing their own effective version of it.
Yeah.
And both of those things are shockingly powerful, and honestly, they're shivering the timbers of veteran software people who know a thing or two about software development. They're genuinely shook at how this is operating in often currently in kind of its perfect state. It's operating independently, developing code and QAing in its own space, and that has a lot of people unnerved, and the markets are certainly paying attention to that.
Yeah. So depending upon how you look at it, and I remember a conversation with one of the sharpest CIOs I know. I don't know whether you know Wayne Seddon. He's very involved in the community as well. He does a lot of podcasting appearances, media, right? And I'm a very seasoned guy, literally like 30 years as a CIO. So I don't think you are going to match that kind of experience. And you
Right.
always learn so much from these guys. And I was talking to him, and I asked him the state of the whole enterprise software, where he sits. And sometimes, I mean, for CIOs also, there's a real threat when you are um, facing young talent. Everybody out of college, they are probably going to code at a light speed. So there is a real threat for CIOs. When you talk to them, and I ask them, okay, you have so many different things happening in the market. You have low code, no code, everybody can code these days. AI wasn't there back then. And then, I asked him, okay, how do you feel? And he's like, if you really think about it, when you look at any software applications, there are three components that are equally relevant. Okay. And sometimes the other two are far more relevant than the actual code. And those are going to be how you are going to design, build the state, how you are going to document, and then finally the technical aspect, which is the code. That 70% dictates, whether what you are going to produce is commercially viable, technically feasible, and scalable, which is the key. Okay. Generally, creating scalable software is way harder than any AI can figure out, especially when you look at sort of the business process category, the kind of technologies we are dealing with. It's not just the software or technology, it's the human component, the theme of this podcast. That's where the major problems are. In fact, I mean, I was talking on one of the podcasts, and I guess one comment there was the technology is probably in, I don't know, 2070 right now. Companies, if you look at their maturity, they are probably in 1970s. So how do you balance that? And they are probably going to be even more behind. Every single client that we talk to, they are treating this as, give me AI. Okay, why do you need to go through the process? Why do you want long implementations? Just implement AI, give me the results. We should be done. It's hard. That's
Yeah,
where we are right now.
it feels to me that this is so early on that people are trying to DIY this. This is kind of, back in the days before packaged software came to PCs. Everybody was kind of, typing out their own little codes and getting things to work in kind of their own individual initiatives. And it feels a lot like, and the general consensus, I would argue, is that, right now it's been underwhelming at the kind of enterprise level. The AI initiatives that have been attempted have been underwhelming, and they've been mostly attempted, in my mind, as like a skunk works type deal, where, it's been, let's do something with AI, and then a bunch of engineers inside companies are trying to make things happen. Meanwhile, you have another kind of obvious paradigm happening, which is the largest technology companies on the planet are not going to let some little, first of all, they're not going to let a skunkworks and an organization disrupt their current implementation. And they're certainly not going to let some newfangled investment come along and disrupt their enterprise market share. And they have a huge footprint into some of these large multinational corporations, certainly at the ERP level and elsewhere. And they're just not going to sit idly by and wait for somebody else to come up with an AI solution. So they're all working and have been working for years, and I would argue even a decade, on AI systems. I mean, we've seen it. We've had on our programs, Infor, SAP, the biggest of the big, talking about what they're doing with AI that's all baked right into their systems and is easily enabled, which is going to be a lot easier for enterprises to take advantage of than to try to build something bespoke, or more to the point, rip and replace everything that they've put in as systems for the past 20 years.
It's very interesting. And to your comment, whether these newer companies, the AI native companies that you are talking about, whether they are going to disrupt anybody's market. Now, let's go back in time a little bit. Okay. Let's talk about Snowflake, Databricks. Okay. They were sort of startups, I guess. Even today, I guess if you ask people, they are probably going to feel fairly new companies. Okay. I was looking at market valuation of Snowflake, Databricks. What is that? More than $100 billion? Maybe 150, 200? I don't know. Okay. Is that as big as Salesforce?
Unicorns. They are unicorns,
They
and the
are
proper term. Yep, they
exactly.
popped up out of nowhere and all of a sudden are dominators.
But that's how Oracle started back in the days,
That's right.
right? So
Right. There will always be winners in every
exactly.
generation.
If you look at private equity money, where is it flowing? And that's what dictates the direction of the market. Okay. They are pouring money right now in the AI native categories. They know that this is
Correct.
a gold rush. Okay. It's a real gold rush. And they
Well, it's exactly like we've always seen in everything that happens, right? There's you make all the bets,
Yeah.
but you know that only 5% of your bets are going to pay off, but you make them anyway because if you get the 5% right, you win massive returns. And that's the venture game. It's a game where you lose more than you win, but the wins are so big that they're worth all the other losses that you take. So you place your bets on a bunch of different plays that are not going to pan out. And I keep hearing about the AI bubble. That's the essence of the bubble right now. Most of these companies they're not going to work. They're not going to find traction. It isn't going to be compelling. Nobody's going to want to rip and replace and disrupt what they have built internally with these newfangled things. But some are going to win. Like Snowflake, like Databricks.
So if you look at the 5%, that's the traditional startup mindset, the investors, the way they invest. With AI, it's probably closer to 40%. Okay. That's why everybody is so crazy
You think
about
40% of these things are going to hit?
probably
That's how you
30,
think about
40.
it?
Yeah. I mean, at least the relevant names, unless you are investing in some random companies with no background, I guess. But the leading ones, the names that are, let's say, $1 billion valuation already right now. If you have logos like Excel or Thama Bravo or these guys involved, Google Ventures, Salesforce Ventures, these guys know what they are doing. Their ratio is not always 5%, it's much more than that.
Well, yeah, I would say 5% is probably low. I would think they'd probably think of it as 10%, but it's I don't think it's much higher than that.
So depending
And
upon where you
the
look at,
venture
if you
game.
look at traditional VC investing, really early stage, no traction whatsoever, very limited traction, founders are not necessarily serious executives, I guess, then you might have that ratio. When you look at Series A, Series B, Series, and that's why the ratios are going to be much higher. So let's talk about the direction of the market, where it is moving and where it's going to go, right? So are we going to get somebody like Databricks? There is a strong possibility that might happen. But before that, there are other things that is going to happen. Okay. So AI native is going to be a real category, and they are going to be consumed by these big market vendors. Everybody is going to acquire the way they had acquired cloud native companies. They are going to acquire AI native companies. Now, how real AI native as a category is going to be, and whether that is going to have a real play in the enterprises, some categories will have a real play, some may not, depending upon how intertwined the whole enterprise architecture is, how transactional their processes are, and what is the strategy that they are taking. Obviously, in this particular case, the existing vendors are also working on these AI initiatives. It's just not as easy for them compared to these guys because they are a blank slate right now. They can move faster. They can sell whatever they want. It's not going to be as easy for the enterprise vendors, but they are also either consuming, acquiring, building. They are working on that. It's not that they are ignoring the market completely. So again, AI native is going to be a real market, and people are already investing in AI native, and investors are investing, even people like you and me. I mean, you are not going to invest in a company that does not have a real AI strategy. Yeah, I would not invest in that.
Well, so let's talk about that. I mean, as to why you need one. So the school of thought here is that, and I think honestly, I mean, we'll speak specifically to ERP because that's your strength. ERP was always about creating efficiencies in the operation of large enterprises in a perfect world as a way to create automation workflows and so forth to ultimately reduce headcount. I think ERP systems were primarily designed to create those connectors and efficiencies around the logistics and supply chains of very complex organizations for the most part. And so now the question is, and the question, that I keep having in my mind is, well, actually, and I'm curious to get your take on this. I often think that a lot of these organizations are pretty well optimized, and maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but is there a lot of meat on the bone here for an AI solution to come along and say, you know what, you're actually incredibly inefficient despite all of your effort in implementing technology over the last 20 years with every smart person you have in your organization, you haven't gotten it right yet.
So very interesting point, and let's talk about that, and let's talk about the state of market from this lens as well, that you believe that every single company is fairly optimized. Okay,
I,
great
I
point.
feel like there's a lot of really smart people who have tried and a lot of technology that have been trying to solve that problem for a lot of years. And
Let's look at
so, yeah, I'm curious. It,
let
that's my sense.
So let's look at the state of the market. Okay. So let's talk about how many SMBs do we have in the market, and how many the real Fortune 500, or, the 500 organizations that do really well. I mean, that's where the money is, to be completely honest. Okay. Now, those SMB companies, are they ever going to get there? And if not, why not? So if everybody was equally optimized, everybody should have equal chances of getting there. But that's not how the world works. We all know this, right? So they have real inefficiencies. They just don't know how to solve that. Now, the question that you are posing,
Why? Why is that? I mean, and this is where you come in, I'm
mindset,
sure. Where this is where you
human.
show up and explain it to them. But I just don't get that. It's like how hard are these problems? How hard are these problems?
Okay, so let me ask you another question. Okay, there are, I don't know how many million people that play basketball. Okay, how many people can play at the championship level?
Right.
And
I,
the
I
argument
follow.
that
I
you are
follow where
making
you're going.
is everybody is level set. That's not true at all. So why is that? Is that purely talent?
Well, no, I mean, you have so I think rather than looking at the individual, I think you look at the organization, right? So and I think your analogy holds true, right? There's some teams that always make it to the Super Bowl or the World Series because they are just better built and have more kind of talent and efficiency at selecting players and grooming, whatever. And so maybe that's your point, is that there's always going to be some laggards and there's going to be some, category leaders and
Yeah. So if you look at the process, and again, if you look at the inefficiencies, I would say 95% or even 99% of the companies, if you look at from my lenses, you have no idea how bad they are. Like really, really bad. Okay. So obviously you have opportunities. The problem is, how do you recognize that you have real inefficiencies? That's number one. Number two, how do you champion the cause and convince people that they need to change? And this is the whole rewiring process any team goes through. Okay, if you look at the rewiring process, how long does it take for a team to rewire their teams? You look at Toronto Raptors. Okay, I love them. Okay, but do they have a real shot? Not too sure about that. Okay, it has taken them literally 5 years right now. I Don't know if it is going to take them, they are doing really well this time, but it's probably going to take them 2 3 years. And again, this is the whole rewiring process that you have to go through. Now AI is a great example. You are saying that, you know what, everybody is efficient. Do you have anything to optimize? Now, when you look at this from the AI lenses, AI is a great, magic wand. Obviously, you can expedite things. We have seen the speed, the kind of speed that you get from AI. I don't think anybody can match that. There's no question that there is real power. Now, how are you going to leverage that power is going to define who's going to be the winner. Okay. So if you look at this purely from sales perspective, investors are trying to make money and they are going to make money. They are fairly sharp, smart. The only thing they care for is how can I sell more? It's as simple as that. Okay. They are going to make stories, and we all know how marketing works. And there are going to be some really powerful stories. But is that going to solve real problems? Okay. That's going to be a question. And if you have figured out how to leverage the power of technology by making changes to people, which is the foundation. Again, AI is not there yet to replace everybody. In fact, I don't buy the argument that the role of ERP was to reduce the headcount. If you start the conversation there, you are not going to get very far, because every single person in the company is going to resist. So deal with change management. Okay. So even with AI, you want to make sure that people are comfortable. They are not led by fear, because when you have fear, there is going to be real resistance inside the company. And these AI initiatives, they will not go anywhere. So I don't know. I mean, I spoke a lot there in terms of the
Well,
overall state
yes.
of the, yeah.
So I think when I say reduce headcount, I mean reduce headcount in certain inefficient tasks. So I think ERP isn't designed to reduce headcount company wide. It's designed to take people out of processes that are bottlenecks and create, in a perfect world, I think, automation. And I think ERP has probably been talking more about automation and machine learning, which is now, often confused with AI. But I would say where most enterprises are getting the value of automation is through ERP systems. Would you
Depending
agree, or
upon
am I off on that?
depending upon how you define ERP, there are like million definition of
Yeah, yeah,
what an
yeah, yeah.
ERP
No,
is.
I gotcha.
And every company has different understanding and different state of ERP. Every vendor has different definition of ERP. So depending upon how you define ERP, if you look at the core, and again, I guess towards the beginning of the year 2025, I guess last year, I guess, the way the conversation started, I think Satya Nadella, he made a big comment that SaaS is going to be dead. And the assumption was that obviously ERP is going to be dead as well. But is ERP going to be dead? That's going to be a question, right? So if you go back to the overarching premise of what is an ERP? Why do you need ERP to begin with? Okay. The whole idea was consolidation. And when you say consolidation, I like to compare this with team sport. Okay. Anytime, whenever you are playing a solo sport, that's far easier. A team sport is going to be 100 times harder, because that requires chemistry. Okay. Chemistry is hard to replicate. So that's the overarching premise of ERP. Now, is AI going to change that premise? Is going to be a question right now. So now, where does AI fit in this? Is AI as part of this whole consolidated state from the business model perspective? Or is AI just fetching the insights? That was the original role of AI. If you look at the traditional AI, but now AI can do a lot more. AI is saying that, you know what, I don't need you. You consolidated guy, because you make everybody's lives harder. You are ERP, everybody hates you. We don't need you.
Well,
But
so yeah, so let's walk through that. And again, I look to your experience kind of working with large companies. So, or working with just complex companies. So, it was my experience in the internet boom of the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. There were winners and there were losers. There were companies that slept on it and didn't want to adapt. And they're kind of infamous, right? Sears. didn't want to go and create an online presence. Blockbuster Video couldn't figure it out, and Netflix ate their lunch. And I don't buy records in record stores anymore, or music in record stores anymore, because Apple came along and disrupted the streaming service,
Yeah.
or music buying process with streaming. I mean, there's any number of things that got obliterated by the companies that had the willpower to implement this new internet technology, and ultimately, cloud, and all the other things, mobile. And so when I look at this next wave of technology, it comes down to, in my mind, you either adopt or adapt, or you could potentially get blown away by some company that has gone all in on AI. And I think that's the question I have is, is it your experience? Because again, my assumptions are that there are some companies that are just not capable of, they'll resist AI. They will resist AI because it is a threat, because it is potentially going to challenge their own political positions within an organization that they're in. And by political, I mean, their power structures, right? The things that make them important in an organization could potentially be disrupted at their level. And so they'll resist this new technology, just like some, brick and mortars in the old internet days just couldn't get their head around the idea that there would be, a retail reckoning.
Yeah. So interesting stories, right? When you look at any of those business models, and business model obsolescence is not a new concept. We all know the life cycle of any company, I guess. You start very cutting edge, you have some new idea, you have very high profit margin. You don't have to worry about anything else because market is sort of following you as opposed to you following the market. Then you become bigger, your costing structure is going to be very different. And then newer players come on and they are not going to have as many constraints as you because you have to follow compliance processes. Everybody's watching you. You are being scrutinized. You have cost factors there. A startup guy comes, they are not going to carry insurance, but they are going to become Uber. Deal with it, right? So now, but Uber also becomes bigger, right? Then there could be a startup that might come. So this is all life cycle of the company. Okay, that's given. Now the question, when you look at this more from the ERP lenses, enterprise processes lenses, organizational alignment perspective, you have two ways of growing. Okay, and those two ways would be that either you have a product where you have amazing profit margins, uh, that you don't have to worry about cost control, process alignment, organizational structure. you know if you are there, then you don't have to worry about anything. Take an example of Tesla. Okay, Tesla does not use an ERP. They claim that they have their own ERP. If you are Tesla, you don't have to worry about anything. Even if people are going to burn your car, you're still going to survive, I guess, because you are that good. Now 90% of the companies are probably not as good. Okay, so in, I would say, 60% of the cases, their revenue and market potential is probably going to be fairly capped. So how do you create money and how do you create value is where the whole enterprise play is. The whole idea of ERP is to consolidate, standardize as much as possible, because custom is expensive. Anytime, whether you go to a restaurant, you're looking for a very custom experience, okay, that's going to be expensive. So you create a custom component in your process system. I don't care, business model. The moment you have, unless somebody is willing to pay for that customized experience, then it's a different case. Okay, you are free to go do that. Because somebody is paying, you are not paying for that. Okay, somebody is enjoying that, they like it for whatever reason, I don't know. Okay, but if you put a CFO hat, then CFO, the way they like to think is revenue is capped. Okay, regardless of what you are going to do, you are not going to get. So how can you create real opportunities, real business value? And that's what 90% of the private equity companies, that's what they are good at. They are good at creating scalable business processes, scalable business model, and that provides some sort of predictability as opposed to unpredictability. So I don't know, if you go back, why those companies disappeared, many reasons. It's not just one. Okay. So anytime, and again, you made a comment that should you get into AI or should you not get into AI? What should you do? I always say that, okay, there are going to be cases where you got into AI without knowing that what you are getting into, and you might be the first one to get shot. Doesn't matter how early you were.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, no, I completely agree that right now it's a good opportunity to get shot in terms of where people are trying to implement AI, because I think everybody's trying to. I don't think the killer apps have arrived yet. I mean, I have a copy of Lotus 123 behind me, and that was the first business app for a PC where people said, "Oh, I get it. I need one of these PCs in my business now because I can do my spreadsheet, this thing called the spreadsheet."
Yeah.
That was a whole mind blower of like, okay, I see now why this thing might be useful to me as a business. And the internet was the same way. I remember building websites early on, and people telling me, "Yeah, I'm never going to put a credit card in anything you build. That's crazy talk. It doesn't sound safe at all." So right now, I think people are saying, we need AI, and people are trying to figure out how to get generative AI to do something, and it's failing because it hasn't come fully baked yet. It hasn't come in the form of Lotus 123, or it hasn't come in the form of Salesforce, like when the cloud first hit and software as a service first was invented. Everybody was still putting large technology packages into big boxes in cold rooms in co-located areas or in their own data center.
Yeah.
And then Salesforce came along and blew that whole, and people then ripped out their Siebel implementations and ripped out their existing, highly customized, expensive legacy technology
Yeah.
to put in this nimble cloud, buy it by the month, extend the licenses out to whomever, and we'll, buy it as we go, rather than investing in this big, huge purchase to get it to work. And so that's what I come to what will get in the way when the killer apps begin to arrive, and they will be coming. There are huge companies that are being built right now.
Yeah.
We're talking before around a company called Campfire, which
Yeah.
is the AI native ERP.
Yeah.
$100 million investment from some of the biggest of the big.
Yeah.
There are other ones coming. They're being built with the intent of disrupting the existing implementations. There are not a lot of companies out there who have been sitting on their hands waiting to implement ERP and can't, figure it out. Everybody's got one. And so you need something that's going to be so compelling that they're going to throw out what they already have. And that's coming. So what gets in the way of that? What is going to be the resistance and over and above politics? I mean, how complicated would it be to completely rip and replace ERP?
So depending upon, again, where you are in your spectrum. So if you talk about completely rip and replace, are companies doing that? Yes, they have done it already with companies like Campfire. You might feel that they might not be there in their what is you are using killer apps category, but in my mind, they are sort of the sales forces of 1999 right now. If you look at Campfire, Dual Entry, Everest, and Relate, those four from the AI native perspective, ERP, you have FP&A. I think you have Pluvo. They are probably for FP&A. Aleph
Are
is
they getting traction? Are you seeing traction for
they,
those guys?
yeah. I mean, they are acquiring logos left and right. I would say very promising company. And again, this is the journey that I have seen in my 25 years. That every 10 years, you are going to have some apps or some companies that are going to completely disrupt the market. That's what cloud native did in 2015. Now
And so
AI native.
what's the compelling story there? What gets people to think, okay, I'm willing to do the unthinkable and completely tearing out what we all use, everybody's comfortable with it, and put in a completely new, I mean, do these things, are they easy to implement? And I mean, how do you get a company to even consider doing that? That's
Let me give you a business case. Let's say you are using a traditional ERP right now, okay, and you need to do like a simple report, okay. You are going to hire somebody like Sam Gupta. Obviously he's really good, but get ready to pay $20,000 just for a simple report, okay. You come to these systems, what they are capable of. You don't need to hire Sam Gupta anymore, okay. They can do those reports overnight, literally with one click. Okay, that's the kind of promise that we are talking about. So customers are not naive to ignore something like this. Okay, they know how powerful AI is. So they are trying to figure out, okay, I need to build AI native strategy pretty much for everything. And it's not just my business processes. Okay, it's going to be my products and services, because I need to embed AI into that before my competitors do, because every single business model in the world is being disrupted by AI at this point of time. So that's the
so.
kind of
What do you get though? I mean, what's so much better about it than if I have a legacy ERP system?
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, the speed that you are getting with respect to configuration implementation is definitely promising, and they are able to do that in certain industries. Okay. Are you going to get the exact outcome? What you are getting? You are definitely going to get a sales pitch, but outcome may not be same. Okay. So the benefit that you are getting is number one, user experience, number two, speed, number three, speed of customization, uh, speed of extracting data, insights, speed of change. I guess that's what you are getting from these technologies. But again, it's not the same outcome. Outcome is very different. You are going to create other problems that people don't understand just yet. So they are getting into something, okay, they don't understand it well enough. So there is a real promise and power. Okay. And whenever, let's say if I'm evaluating an ERP right now, or CRM for that matter, Doug, what is your evaluation process? You are not going to ignore anything, right? You are going to look at pretty much everything. You are going to look at modern technology. You are going to look at modern interfaces, how easy it is to use, how long you are going to take to complete a specific process step. And based on that, you are going to decide whether this application is going to make sense for me or not. And some of these steps, obviously, they have been shortened substantially. And then obviously customers are willing to talk about them as well. So you have a real business case right now. If you look at the number of logos that they are acquiring every month, it's probably, 100, 200, sometimes 1,000. So there is a real momentum. And that's why investors are pouring money in these technologies, because they are able to give the kind of marketing speed that these companies are going to need, and the brand power. So again, the market is being disrupted at this point of time. Next 5 years, it's going to be completely different.
Well, I'm actually asking, as we were talking there, I'm asking AI to provide me with a good reason why I would switch to an AI native ERP system. And it says it offers significant strategic advantages over legacy systems, transforms ERP from a passive system of record into an active system of intelligence, providing 25 to 45% faster decision making and 30% lower operating costs.
So, depending upon how you talk about decision making, and I don't know how well the audience is going to understand the whole agentic processes. So some of these agentic processes that you have, they are going to replace human-centric workflows. For example, let's say traditional ERP admin, Doug, let's say if you had to hire, I'm not sure if you are using an ERP in your company right now, but if you were using an ERP and if you had to hire an ERP admin, they are going to cost you roughly 100,000 or maybe 120,000 if you are using a real ERP. Okay, if you're using something like QuickBooks, you can probably get for like $10 an hour. That's a real difference in the rate, right? So you're looking at that kind of cost. Now, some of these agentic processes can do the work that ERP admins used to do. So this is just one use case, okay? You are talking about calibration of any of your data sets. One of the major problems that the majority of the companies had, for example, let's say safety stock, okay? If you look at safety stock, that probably drove pretty much everything, okay? How much inventory you are going to have, how much cash you are going to keep, and that's where your money was sort of locked. So now AI has a promise, or agentic processes, they can optimize, calibrate all of those processes as well. Now, this is just one. And I don't know, Doug, whether you have interacted with any of the AI agents. The interaction is far superior as well. If you talk to a customer service agent, okay, you talk to them, it's hit or miss, right? Generally, it's going to be miss. because they are probably trained on 1,000 scenarios. Okay, they just don't know enough. Okay, people's expectation is going to be on the other side. They are going to get somebody like Doug or Sam Gupta. It doesn't work that way. Okay, if you are paying $20 for a product, you are not going to get as qualified person on the other side. Now AI agents, they are probably trained on maybe 10,000 or a million scenarios, and that's why you have the power of answers. They are providing far more qualified answers, so you have customer experience. That's where you are going to have the real AI power. Now if you look at legacy workloads, how easy it is to incorporate those processes with the legacy workload. Some vendors are claiming that they have agentic processes, but again, they have a lot more friction, organizational friction, to change themselves to be somebody like Campfire, somebody like Everest. It's not easy. It's never easy to compete with startups.
Well, but truth be told, I mean, we are kind of, and I am 1000% a believer that we're all in a state of denial if we don't think that this is where it's all going. That people who are resisting because it has hallucinations, or it has, doesn't give me the right answer every time. It's like, yes, correct. That's true. It doesn't. But that is going to be overcome, because there's too much willpower and too many good ways to solve all those problems. Like all the little bits and pieces right now. And I think I saw somewhere, actually, Salesforce, I think, is pretty open about, the limitations that agents have right now with regard to, self-operating because of their tendency to get things wrong. And it's not a small amount. I think I saw their most recent kind of post on it was something along the lines of, it only gets it right 60% of the time, or something like that. They're not necessarily running around saying they've got it all sorted out. They're running around saying it's getting there, but they're relentless, and they have the resources, and they're not going to let that be the final state. They're going to get it to be 75%, and then 85%, and then 95%. And that'll be so good that'll be better than humans. And so I firmly believe that this is, to your point around customer service, it's like we're all going to want AI agents as our customer service reps. Absolutely, positively. They'll be better and faster and quite frankly, more nuanced when they deal with us than a human.
Some very good points there. Let's touch on those. Okay. Again, technology is very powerful. AI is very powerful. But what is more powerful is understanding the strengths and weaknesses of technology and utilizing them for the right use case. Okay. It would be a stretch to assume that the problems that you have with AI are going to go away. That's not how technologies work. These are constraints. Okay. Is AI going to be smarter than humans? That would be a crazy idea. Okay. Humans have evolved pretty much everything. Okay. Our human brain is way powerful than most people think. Okay. Now, the question is going to be how you are going to leverage the limitations as well as strengths of AI, and how you are going to be better. And that's human. That's what we are good at. We are really enterprising. We are very resourceful. We understand if something is good, we want to leverage that. Right. So again, I don't think those hallucinations that you are talking about, they're going to go away. I don't think that it will get better. I'm not saying that it's not going to improve, it's going to evolve, but there are limits to what AI or agentic processes are capable of. So if you design your business model, business processes, systems around these strengths, while understanding the limitation, create appropriate amount of control, you will be the winner. Otherwise, it's just going to be shiny object you are chasing. Good luck with that, because that
Well,
always
again,
messes.
in my completely bullish position on this, I don't think we're going to be the smartest. I don't think we're going to be able to compete with this in any way. I think I refer to us as the smartest mammal on the planet, and that's about it. and we've been living off of that distinction, quite frankly, for quite a while. But we're building something that is Anthropic talked about, how it is now using AI to train its AI so it can train faster
I get it.
than humans. It can use different levers and different, quite frankly, different data sets and different speed, and obviously under the monitoring of AI scientists who are determining whether or not it's on the right track or not. But the where we are in the ski slope of this thing, or the hockey stick of this thing, is right at the bottom of a very steep increase in competence of AI systems.
So there are a lot of changes happening, and I don't know whether you have followed the news where AI agents are actually hiring the humans. There's a
I saw that.
marketplace right now.
That's
Um,
right. Where they are just digital. They're right. You can hire a human to
and I don't know
do
how real that story is, but I
the
mean,
work.
yeah,
Well, it's a cute story, just like the story of, this
social network.
the social network. But I just read a post where somebody's claiming that that went in there and posed, that humans were in there posing as agents and making all these, the most notable comments were being commented on by LARPers who were in there screwing with it.
I mean, look, markets are always going to be all over the place. I mean, there is going to be noise. There are going to be real players. There are also going to be fake players. I mean, you cannot avoid those. This is all real world. But when you look at the human power, and Doug, I'm not suggesting that every human is going to be as powerful as AI, but the game is supposed to be survival of the fittest to begin with. Okay, so some people are going to survive. Some companies are going to survive. I'm not saying everybody is going to survive. Okay, but again, humans will be able to master. They will be able to leverage. They will be able to leverage the intelligence for their own good, and then create something that is going to be far more meaningful, hopefully, for the whole world. That's how I see it. I don't know. I mean, you probably feel that AI is going to
Well,
take over. I don't think that's gonna.
what and this is what I'm trying to get to in these conversations, is what is it that makes us so special? And I'm asking because I really want to know. I mean, my sense is that we overrate ourselves, and that we are not as all we're cracked out to be. And again, we've been living off of our evolutionary advantage over the other carbon-based life forms. But this is a different thing altogether, what we're building here. This is not that. And so what makes it so special?
You asked the question, okay, what is the power of AI? Why should I go for AI? The reason why AI is so powerful is because AI is adaptable. Okay. But AI is only 0.01% adaptable in my mind. Okay. Our human brains are probably 1000% adaptable. The number of variables that our human brains can deal with, and get over pretty much everything and learn so fast, that is just amazing. I don't think anybody can beat that, and they can learn even from AI as well. That's what makes us so special. AI is not there yet. AI has figured out text.
Isn't that what we're trying to build though with AI? Is the
AI
idea of
has
a neural network, that it's operating in a completely different manner than traditional technology?
very few variables so far. AI has figured out text. It's really good at text. AI may have figured out voice. I don't know how good it is right now. Uh, it struggles with images. I'm pretty sure you have seen that. It struggles with videos, because as you move up in the spectrum in terms of complexity, you are going to increase more number of variables. When you increase more number of variables, you introduce structured chaos. Okay, I'm not saying that AI will not be able to learn from that and improve, but it takes a lot more effort when you are going to have a lot more variables that you are going to introduce in your world, in your system, and that is going to disrupt the whole chemistry, which is where the play is. Now, human mind is far bigger. Human mind can run faster than anything else in the market. That's why we are humans. That's our power. That's our strength. So now again, is AI going to be better? Yes, it is going to be better. It's going to be better at images first. Let it figure out an image. Right now, if I give it a prompt, right now AI is operating in this chunk. And I like to compare this with my 3-year-old. The kind of attention span my 3-year-old has, the kind of processing power that my 3-year-old has. Very similar. Works in very short chunk, does not remember anything afterward. Uh, you know, can do very basic tasks, but if you give it like the big project, um, struggles with it. You can fake it, you can mimic it, but that's not the strength so far. Uh, you know, is it going to get better? Yes, it is going to get better, but how better? And who's going to run
Well,
faster?
I mean, it's a way better artist than I am right now. It can do things I can't do, and it can do them right very quickly in terms of, Nano Banana creating an image for me for some post I want to put up. I would argue it might not be a better original writer than me, but it writes way faster and it's pretty compelling what it can write, and it adds access to information that and perspective that I just would never even know existed. I mean, there's no its level of depth of kind of pristine knowledge is unrivaled. I mean, there's I don't see consulting. This is another one of my kind of contentions. I don't see consulting or, quite frankly, education being able to withstand what's coming. Traditional delivery methods of consulting and education just won't be able to. And honestly, once you get to a point of kind of synthetic, real-time avatar delivery of learning, I don't see the crusty professor, just because I'm in front of them in 3 dimensions, the fact that they're delivering this one lesson to many in their own personality. I think we're all going to be way better suited to have something that is bespoke, delivering information to us in the way that we want to hear it, whether we're, so that it's more relatable, that it's more, remember memorable and so forth. So, the custom education and again, consulting on levels of knowledge that no one consulting, or quite frankly, no one consulting firm could possibly access for the same amount of, fee. This is far more, it's already, in my mind, far superior.
So, okay, let me ask you a deeper life question. Since you are posing that question, you are using AI, you are feeling that AI is probably better than you. Okay. Now, the question is going to be, are you using AI, or is AI using you right now?
Yeah, right. No, I would argue that AI is a colleague, a collaborator.
You are the boss.
Yeah.
You are the boss right now. You are using AI. You are
No,
leveraging.
I just like it's just like another employee on a team. You're accessing their strength, right? Give me a breakdown of the blah 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 blah, and bammo, rather than waiting a week and hoping that this person comes up with something and you have no idea what they're going to come up with, and then they deliver it and you're either disappointed or overwhelmed.
Yeah.
This thing gives it to you. You know how it works because we use it all the time now. It gives it to you in less than a minute in such a compellingly overwhelming way. It's almost like the amount of output you get is too much information. It comes at you in these waves of like depth and insight that you almost can't organize it properly.
Doug, this
It's
is the
almost too
same
much
argument.
information.
This is the same argument people had made when cars were introduced. There were real rickshaws that men used to pull, and they were thinking that, what's going to happen to me? This is far more powerful. Am I going to survive? Okay, these are same questions. Technology works this way. This is technology adoption curve. It's not new anymore. Okay, it's the same
But
thing.
I don't know why you would pay somebody $300 an hour for something that you could buy for $300 a quarter and get the same amount of output. I mean, maybe again, when I look at consulting, I see it as the end of the bill. This is the end of the billable hour, that you don't need to pay somebody or a team of somebody's. And I think this is going to be the case in the legal profession, in accounting. I mean, basically, this is all easily disrupted once it has the complete corpus of information and can and is organized properly in terms of, all of the prompting and all of the whatever it is, automations that can be put in place, all those things are easily disrupted.
I don't know if you're a fan of Yuval Harari. He has written many different books, Sapiens, 21 Rules for 21st Century. And he talks about 4 Cs that are going to survive in the age of AI. And those 4 Cs are critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, and which is the fourth one? Thinking, collaboration, creativity. Okay, so if you go back to the fundamentals of that, we probably need to come back on the 4C, I guess.
Yeah.
Somebody can link it, right?
Producer Ryan here for a quick clarification. Sam is referencing Yuval Noah Harari's 4 Cs: critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity.
So if you go to the 4 Cs, okay, if you look at the foundation of consulting, what consulting brings to the table, it is going to be those 4 Cs. Okay, consulting is supposed to be very creative. It's not supposed to be procedural. It's not accounting. I mean, if it is
I know it's
accounting,
supposed to
the
be.
rate of accounting is like $10 an hour. Bookkeeping. That's not consulting. That's not consulting. It's supposed to be a very tailored problem. Again, balancing 1970 and 2070. That's what is consulting. If we talk about that real marriage, because again, the human element, that's what makes it complex. Because each of the interaction that you are going to have in the process, that's what makes it complex. And that's where sort of
consulting, I
consulting
mean,
fits.
I would argue that consulting has been living off same with like higher education. It's living off of this understanding, or at least this perception, that they know more than I do, and so I need them to help me understand my problem because I don't have that worldview and or the methodology that they use, or this kind of support structure of researchers and access to all of these other business cases that they've implemented. And it's this, we've done that, we've been there, we've done that, we've seen everything. It's this kind of overwhelming sense that they're smarter than me. They're way smarter than me. The whole McKinsey thing where it's like, we're just smarter. But the fact of the matter is that is not, and same with professors in university. They have information. You need the information. If you don't have the information, you can't get the job. They give you the information in exchange for a fee, and they give it to you the way they decide they want to give it to you. They don't give it to you the way you want it delivered. It's the way they deliver it. And again, these things are easily now that you have unlimited and again, clear recall, 100% pristine recall of all the information that has been ingested in these LLMs. All you need is a paradigm for delivering them. Maybe it's a methodology. Maybe just take the methodology that previously exists at McKinsey or at, Ernst & Young or wherever the biggest of the big have methodologies, and you can get it all delivered in effectively the same output, a written report with, maybe a person delivers it to you, and maybe you need a few people to implement it.
If
But
that is
you're
the
not
case,
going to pay. You're not going to pay the same fees. No way you're going to pay the same fees because the information has now been commoditized. The answers are free.
if that is the case, we don't have a place for humans in that world. So,
Well, I mean, how do you argue that the answers aren't free anymore? I mean, I can get any answer I want right now.
answers are free, but right answers are expensive, very expensive. And you need to know how to find the right answers, especially when you are living in this kind of a smart world where,
Isn't that what your job is, though, is to get the consultant to give you the ideas, and then you ultimately decide.
and that's why consulting is a place, because you just don't know what you don't know. Even for AI, you
don't know what you don't know. So you get the consultant who does know what but now I guess that's my point, is that this is better than cheap. Well, I should say it's cheaper. It's not going to take you to the, luxury box at the football game. It's not going to buy you dinner. It's not going to bring you to the corporate event or pay for whatever, whatever the, high-end schmoozing that happens with a consulting firm. It's not going to do all those things, but it's going to give you effectively the same deliverable.
That's what you are thinking, but that's not true at all. It's not even close. It's not even close. And knowing that requires a lot of work.
What am I missing?
That's what I'm saying. It's not close. And
What am I missing? What parts am I missing?
Because you are assuming a lot and you just don't know what you are assuming at this point of time. You are thinking that they are same, which is a big leap, big assumption in that thought process. They are not the same output. Your eyes are not trained to see that they are not the same output. They are entirely different. Now, you are a media person, you are a creative person. And by the way, creativity was the fourth point that I had missed in those 4 C's, and Ryan pointed out, because he's the creative guy. He knows that he can never be replaced, regardless of what you are going to do. Because again, creativity is very different. AI is very good at procedural things. That's why AI is really good at coding, because coding is very procedural. Okay. When you talk about anything beyond procedural, that's where you require human creativity. Okay. You are looking at these two outputs, you are feeling that they are same. That's how everybody is. And that's why you have 95% inefficiencies in the market, because everybody feels that what's a big deal? Everybody is equally efficient. Where are the opportunities?
I mean, I've seen enough outputs to know that I'm not. When I look at it, I'm blown away by when I ask, and then I continue down the path until basically you run out of tokens, and it says we can't keep going. But if you keep going with it, and you keep it does remember what it's been talking about, and it does access past chats that you've had with it, and it does have context that it's trying to leverage. It's like we talked about this, so I'm going to incorporate these things. Sometimes it's hits a wrong note, but you can correct it. I can't tell you the number of times I've watched a consultant walk into a room and absolutely drop the ball completely by being completely tone deaf about what they were supposed to deliver. They didn't get it right at all. And you're blown away by how far off they were when they kind of come to you with this, recommendation of what they're talking about.
Yeah, so the problem could be both ways. And that's why consulting is so hard. The problem is not just with the consultant, the problem is also with the customer, because it's going to be their mindset, whether they can see the expertise, whether they understand and value the expertise. It's like hiring. Okay. How many people do you know are really successful at hiring? Very few. The people who have figured out, they are probably going to be the most successful executive. In my mind, AI is just better internet, better resource. I don't see it more than that. It's a machine. Okay. When you have real deep subject matter expertise is where the money was. That is supposed to be consulting. Consulting in 2026 right now, if you talk to anybody, everybody claims that they are consultant. Even if they are going to be a sales guy who has read maybe 5 decks and they claim themselves as consultant, they are not consultant. They have zero understanding about what consulting is supposed to mean. Consulting is supposed to be PhD level expertise. PhD level expertise, they are not supposed to be sales and marketers. Okay, the role of sales and marketing is supposed to be to simplify things, to generate interest. Okay, it's not supposed to be, I guess, look at this more from the research perspective. I guess I don't know how to explain that. But let's say if you are talking to a scientist, are you going to compare a scientist with AI? Seriously? Like, there is no way.
Aren't we doing that right now with Claude Code? Aren't we basically computer scientists? Aren't they just being
not even close?
Not even close. I mean, future computer scientists. So this is the other thing. It's like we have this existing kind of structure of expertise where you have, hierarchy, right? You get on you're the, low man on the totem pole. You are the, code producer, and you eventually work your way up to senior code producer. And then you work your way up to, QA, and then architect, and whatever the path is for a coder, till you become, the senior project manager, senior architect of whatever the software you're trying to build is. But aren't we basically eliminating those lower rungs on that ladder with Claude Code? And as a result, this class of expert is basically going to atrophy and go away, and there won't be what?
Yeah.
Will there be?
So technology,
and is there going to be a need for it?
Technology eliminates inefficiencies. Technology eliminates procedural things. from the equation. If you look at the technology spectrum, how technology has evolved even today. So you are right that junior developers, they don't bring much value to the table. Okay, that can be easily replicated using AI. But when you
Right.
move up the chain, that's where you develop artistic sense.
But for how
Okay.
long?
No, I mean,
Forever?
again, let's go back to the data points. Okay, so you talk about GAO, from the AI perspective. Okay, what do you think? I mean, let's say any company, if they are trying to rank on generative AI right now, how many data points does ChatGPT need for it to rank on that? I think the default commentary that I'm hearing is 250 data points. You need to have at least some sort of 250 thought leadership assets before AI can trust you that you sort of know what you are doing. Otherwise, your AI is simply going to ignore you. Okay.
Mm.
Now, if you look at the data points, junior developers, let's compare it to that. Okay. How many data points do they have? One? Worked in one project, two project, three project, four project, five project, 10 project? Okay. Senior developer, how many projects? How many companies? How many industries? How many business models? 20? 30? Let's talk about CIU. How many? I don't know, 50? Do they have 250? Do they have subject matter expertise? Not too sure. You need a lot more data points. You need
Isn't
more.
that the case for AI? That it has an unlimited capacity for data points?
AI is 3-year old. I compare that with my son because that's
Oh no,
how intelligent AI is.
again, it's I consider us in the toddler stage. I agree with you. We're in toddler stage of this thing, but it's a prodigy. It's clearly a prodigy, and it seems to have perfect recall. And so and an unlimited capacity, it just has to ingest the information.
The question always is going to be who's running faster. The fittest human will always run faster than anything else. And that's what is called survival of the fittest. Again, going back to my analogy. Okay. So
Okay.
again, so here, yes, AI is powerful. Nobody's arguing that AI is not powerful. AI is adaptable. AI has a lot more intelligence baked as part of it. But who's running faster? Are humans or no? If they are not running faster, obviously.
I think up until now, humans have been the ones that could learn faster, but that's my point, is we're building something that is better than us. We're building something that is foundationally better than us, and we're also giving it capacities that we will never have. We will never have the capacity singularly in terms of accessing our own brain. We're crossing over where we can't compete with it.
So again, regulation have never helped sort of the growth of civilization, if I can put that, right? The reason why we have grown so far, two reasons. Number one, technology, and number two, productivity. We have always mastered that. And that's what AI brings to the table. And that's what we are doing that. If we control, that means we are stopping ourselves. Okay. So you never want to stop the technology. You want to leverage that as a resource, as a machine, as much as possible, because if you don't, somebody else will.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, this is a fascinating time. I was in college when PCs kind of hit, and went through that whole experience. And then, I was in government when I was first exposed to the internet, and immediately taught myself HTML and became a web developer. The minute I saw it, I could see this future where the internet would have a massive impact. And so I look at this as even more than that. And I mean the internet, as much as we had a bubble and maybe we haven't been pleased with its effects necessarily from some of the social media behavior, alteration, and us all walking around with phones in our faces. I'm not wild about some of the experimentation on dopamine release and so forth, but the internet is the greatest thing I think that we've invented. I would argue it is the greatest thing we've invented, and this is the next one. These only come along every 30 years.
Yeah.
This is the next one.
It is the next one. And we both are going to be here We both are not going anywhere, regardless of how capable AI is. And we'll have the same conversation in next 15 years. And I can guarantee this stuff. The next one is going to be 50 times better than AI. The next innovation that we are going to see. You have no idea.
And then it's yeah.
And we are going to be way smarter.
Well, I don't know. I think I'll be out of a job, but that's fine. Well, anyway, Sam, it was great to catch up with you. Thanks very much for the time. Always a pleasure. And best of luck with everything you're doing at ElevateIQ. I know it's got to be a fascinating time for you. So we'll catch up with you on down the road. But thanks very much for all of your time today and all the other things you've done for us at Insight Jam.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Doug. Always a pleasure.